Jehovah Jireh, my provider. You are more than enough for me. Jehovah Rapha, you're my healer. In this love I have been set free. Jehovah Shammah, you are with me, and you supply all of my needs. You are more than enough, more than enough. You are more than enough for me. Jehovah Jireh, my provider. You are more than enough for me. Jehovah Rapha, you are my healer. In this love, I am set free. Jehovah Shammah, you are with me, and you supply all my needs, and you are more than enough, so much more. Oh, more than enough for me. Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Jireh, my provider.
So some of you I'm noticing or haven't been here for a while. It's good to see you, and you are at the last day. The last day, part 5 of Proving Abundance, Living the Abundant Life, A through Z. We will get to Z today. I'm closing it out. This has been the most comprehensive talk series on the idea of spiritual abundance that I've ever done. I've covered things I've never covered because we had time, and I just sort of broke them down. I think I was hoping, my prayer was, that every week there'd be something that would apply to you, but I was covering at least, 7 to 8 ideas, big ideas a week. So what we're doing is that we are creating an MP3 for everyone that pledges so that you can listen to the talks over and over and over again, because you may have been contemplating one idea and then there was 3 others that followed. So it's a way for us to cover everything, and I want you to have that. Plus everyone that does make a pledge, and many people have made pledges so far, you also will receive a concert. We haven't cooked it up yet, but you're going to get a free concert and a wonderful magnet with an affirmation. We're trying to be good to people. But let's start with A through Z. We'll start with A, we'll go to Z, but this is a test for those of you that have been here. A stands for? Absolute. Yes. Doesn't stand for Apple or Abigail or any of that other stuff, although they're all good. Apples and Abigails are good, but we're talking about the absolute. And I want to talk about the absolute and how I define that. It's another name for God, yes, if you have a very big God. It's a name for God if you have a big God. A God that does not play favorites, that embraces everyone and everything, that does not withhold, because if it is creation, then it's always an expression, and it doesn't withhold that expression. We don't have to, in this particular philosophy, we don't have to search for the absolute or become good enough or earn some sort of blessing. We are a guilt-free zone. We have God without guilt. Yay! I don't know about you, but that's like all the good and none of the bad. Praise God. See, I can sing too. Not near as well, but still. God loves my voice. I say that because one of the things that I tease people about is that I'm already setting up my next life. Because why not set it up? I want long legs, and I want a voice. I want to sing. I want to be blah, blah, blah. So I'm setting it up, and you're one of those zones I try to go into. So the absolute is something that is beyond all names. There's a song that I broke into before, and I'm not going to do it now, but we sing in the name of the one. I can't even sing it without singing. We sing in the name of the one, eternal, infinite, speeding. We sing in the name of the one, eternal, infinite being, that is many names, yet is beyond all names and forms. It's sort of a glee experience. That's what they did on that TV show. I'm complete now. I'm feeling good. There isn't anywhere where it's not, so it's always here. We don't have to search for it. We just have to become awake and aware of its presence and accept its direction. Awake and aware of its presence and accept its direction. It's, so many traditions have taught this. At the core of every spiritual tradition, that's it. This flame, this eternal flame that is always burning within the center of every creation. We are a center of creation. We are a center of divine operation, as all things are. So I'd like us to court that right now. I want us to, something that we've talked about the last few weeks, which is just change the channel. How many of you know when your thoughts are on the periphery? How many of you know when your thoughts about either the future, the past, What's going to happen? Who's on my right? Who's on my left? Do I know the person on my right and do I left? Should I talk to him? Should I be neighborly? Should I be Seattle cool or should I be church warm? I mean, how many of you all have those thoughts? Like you can't even be present because you're too busy out here. That's the periphery. It's our thinking process. It's not bad. It's just where we operate out of a lot. And it's that part of us that can worry, that can scheme, that can calculate. Maybe it's that part that Emerson was talking about when he said, the finite is wrought and suffers, but the infinite lies in silent repose. So that absolute, that infinite, it lies in repose within us, always, always ready for our recognition. So I want you to just take a deep breath, breathe deeply, and try to follow your breath into the cave of your heart to find that place that is in infinite repose. That place that is peaceful, calm, content, powerful, and loving. And it's constantly that. If there was a constant in the universe, that would be it. Stuff happens, but not to it. It causes things to happen. Now, how many of you can touch that? How many of you have been practicing and can go there? We've got about 20 of you. Or more, thank you. Ernest Holmes says it matters not so much about what we pray about, but where we pray from. And what I would say, it also matters where we listen from. In conversation, it's not so much what we want to say or what's being said, but where are we listening from? Because where we listen from will change how we hear things. Who I am really shades my world. And if it's true about me, I bet it's true of you too. Who you are at any given moment shades how you see things. So I want to now start the process, but I'd like you to listen from that calm, beautiful, infinite self. And we'll start with S. I left with S, but there's so many S's. We'll start with S again. And the first one is self. As in higher self, eternal self, real self, spiritual self, infinite self, self. There's capital S self. That which isn't conditioned by conditions. That which is calm and has an equilibrium, has a balance, seeks harmony. How many of you have ever felt that? I should have some more. Great. Now, how many of you would like to feel it more? Well, we have to choose it more, listen for it more, seek it more. There are times, truly, I get it. It's like there are times I can listen to someone's conversation and I'm just so calm and I know that it's all the conversation is going to flow beautifully. There's other times I listen to a conversation and I want to butt in and tell them what to do and where to go. How many of you have ever done that? See, it's not what they're saying, it's where I'm listening from. Self. We seek that higher self. If we want to have a prosperous life, if we want to have a life of abundance, to live from that place, which is seeking first the kingdom, and all else shall be added, to seek that kingdom. Kingdom meant realm, so it's a realm of power. To seek that realm of God, which is the realm of power, to seek that, everything else is added. I was having a conversation with someone last week, and they were saying, I can't believe it. It's like, even before I ask, it's there. Even before I think I know what I want, it's there. As soon as I want it, it's there. That's seeking the kingdom. They sought first their connection with the self, which we can't be disconnected from it, by the way. What we're really seeking is a conscious awareness of the self. We're seeking to be awake and aware and accept its guidance, and stuff happens for good. The next S is supply. Supply is a universal idea. It's just what happens. In Hinduism, it would be the god Vishnu. There's the creator god, the sustainer god, and the recycler god. We'll just call it the recycler god. It's all the same God, but there's different aspects. There is an aspect of the eternal that supports and sustains what it has created. It wants to support and sustain the forest. It wants to support and sustain all life. And unless somehow we get things out of balance, this is a self-sustaining universe. Unless things get out of balance, won't go there. All nature thrives when it has what is needed, and it is nature's job to supply what's needed. When you need something, what you need to do is know that that self within is the attractor of all your supply. So we don't look to this to help us, or that to help us, or this to help us, or that to help us. We look to supply from attracting from within and being drawn to us from nature itself, from the universe itself. So I would love for you to say, God is my supply.
God is my supply.
Now, that's a good affirmation. Think of something you don't have and say, God is my supply.
God is my supply.
Now imagine that by saying that, you're making it real for yourself. How many of you know that sometimes you just repeat things, but it just is blah, 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 blah? Okay, don't do it that way. Think of something that you need and say, God is my supply.
God is my supply.
Great. Woohoo, we're on our way. Spirit's job is to support its creation, and our job is to participate in that creation. One of the ways that we participate in that flow and in that spirit and in that and discovering ourselves and living a life that is large is through tithing. Let's take a deep breath. Now, where you listen from will shape how you hear this. Where you listen from. It's easier to consider the spiritual nature of tithing if you are coming from or if you're listening from that self. The self goes, oh yeah, an idea. The smaller self, the chatty self can go, oh no, she's going to ask something. Red alert, where's the door, where's the door? Or it'll go, oh, I'm not listening for a while. Wake me up when she's done. If you listen from your outer self, from your fearful self, you'll hear this like a tax, a church tax. There is no taxing here. I know because I've been in 2 denominations where it was a tax. This isn't it. Trust me. So I want to just share with you a little bit about this. This comes from a book that's out of print. I don't know how I got it, but I'm loving it. It's Putting the Prosperity Ideas to Work, by Robert Russell. Any system that has endured and proven itself for centuries demands our utmost attention. Tithing is not a popular subject, even among religious circles, because people do not understand it. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. If millions acclaim that tithing is the true basis of prosperity, we need to do some serious thinking about it. Tithing preserves the contact between a human being and its source, or his source, or her source. It keeps the person in contact with the universal supply. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed. The law says that 10% of your income belongs to the source, and to fail to return it is to rob God. I want to say that. That's not true. No. The law says 10% of your income belongs to the source. No. Everything belongs to God. What doesn't belong to God? My life is God. My health is God. My substance, my ideas, my opportunities come from God. That's just all there is to it. And if I give a small portion, because honestly, 10% of what I make isn't that big a deal. And some people say, oh, if I ever even made more. Well, if you only make $100 and you give 10 away, that's not that big a deal. If you have a lot of people want to make more money and then they'll give more, it'll be harder to write the check for $100,000 than it will for 10. Trust me. How is this tithe given? Joyously, hilariously, cheerfully. If we give with a sense of compulsion, it's like planting vegetable seeds and neglecting them. Whoa! What is the benefit? It keeps mean, stingy, fearful, and limited thoughts out of the mind and keeps the good flowing in. I couldn't talk about this if I didn't do it, and honestly, I didn't do it on purpose. I sort of stumbled into it when I was in my early 20s. And I think it's then that I broke free. And I've been free ever since. And I could tell you story after story after story, and obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And yet, because I was honestly always trusting God first, things came through. Things came through. And to tell you a personal experience of this, Paul Ramey.
Everybody hear me okay? Well, I'm Paul. Hey, this is not 12-step. But I do have a confession. I am an anti-dogmental tither. You know what anti-dogmental means? Look it up. And while you're looking it up, I want to make one more confession. I have one significant, but only one religious qualification, and that is I am married to the red-hot Reverend Sharon Ramey. So today, I'm going to tell you how I became a tither. Before you stand up to leave, let me tell you that I'm going to spare you the painful, brutal details of my story, which tagline, extreme reluctance. Until I did the math. Now, so I'm going to show you how to do the math. You'll need a pencil and paper. This is 4th grade math. So if you're not good at math and you're here with a 4th or 5th grader, give them the pencil and paper, let them do it. Are you ready? Everybody ready? Okay. Number 1, write down how much income you had last year. I know you may have questions about that. Paul, is that gross income? Is it after-tax income? Is it sales income? Does it include all the coffee and beer that somebody bought for me? Nobody cares. Just write the number down. Okay, got the number? Divide it by 12. That would be what you're calculating there is 1 month's income. Next step, you got that number? Take that number, divide it by 10. It's just 4th grade, right? That's 10% of 1 month's income. Next step, write a check for that amount. Don't put it in the basket yet. Oh, yeah. They have these terrific forms that you can use. It's in the thing in front of you. Let me see if I can figure it out. Here. If you don't have one, I'll send you one. Apparently everybody's got one. Next step, and this is the most often overlooked step in the process. Notice and record all of the financial income that you just added up. Notice and record all of that between now and 12/3/2019 for the next month, okay? Keep a little list of all the money you receive, not just including your income, but including your income. Every financial gain that you receive between now and 12/3. It's not that hard to do. It is hard to remember where it might have come from. So that would be starting with your income between now and 12/3. The gain on that is any raise or bonus that you receive. Only record the gain, okay? Just the gain. Any gain in your 401k or 403b. Anybody got a 401 account, retirement account? How's it doing? You don't have to tell me. I know how mine's doing. Doing the same as somebody buys you a drink. Somebody like me, maybe. Or Kathianne, who has bought me many drinks. Well, I've been here for 20 damn years. So somebody buys you lunch or coffee that you didn't pay for, but they paid, write it down. Write down the value of it. That's gain. Okay? Now, final step. Add up all those gains between now and 12/3. Compare it to the check you just wrote. You did write that check I told you to write, didn't you? I don't care whether you put that check in the basket today or you put it in 12/3. If your total recorded gain is more than that check you just wrote, try not to put it in the basket. You won't be able to. So, that's all I've got to say except for what happened to me when I did that. What I discovered was proof absolutely positive proof. That doesn't mean it was easy to internalize. Positive proof that there is no such thing. There is no such thing as a dollar-limited financial pie. There is no such thing. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That's where you believe that your slice can't get any bigger unless somebody else's gets smaller. The kindest word I have for that is baloney. It just ain't so. And if this exercise doesn't prove it to you, you can call me on the phone. I'm not giving you my number. So here's my advice when it comes to money. This only applies to money. Be a scientist, for God's sake. Experiment. Measure your results. Learn from those results. Change the time you have left to a higher financial life. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a beautiful, wonderful explanation. It's a hard thing to talk about because the outer mind thinks loss, where the inner mind thinks connection. I'm connected to, I'm connecting to, I'm connected to, I'm connected to, which leads me to you, which is understanding. Understanding comes from experience. And too many of us want to understand before we try so we can experience, which is backwards, and then you'll never understand. It just doesn't work that way. You need to try spiritual ideas out and then work with them until you begin to understand. And once you understand, you can apply a spiritual tool anywhere and you'll feel confident. You'll feel confident. Recently, I got to apply spiritual tools to a physical thing that was going on for me. I think only 3 people knew, but it could have been serious. And without taking any medical remedies, because I didn't know what to do, I needed to change what was going on in my body. So myself and 3 other people were in prayer for me. And as of a week ago, it's just gone. It's gone. But I understand how it works. I understand I understand that I must seek this, that I must seek that internal kingdom. I must seek that realm. And then I expect it to add. I expect God to handle things. And sometimes you just have to start where you are. And what I've noticed is one of the ways to best prove these ideas is to try them out in this realm of money, because we make such a big deal about it. Value. V is for value. What do you value? What's really important? What's really important will show up in your time and your treasure. So just tell the truth about it. It's just tell the truth. Don't say this is really important, but you don't give any time or attention to it. I mean, maybe that's why I've had 5 marriages before I could finally get it right. Because I could say someone was number one, but if I didn't give them any time and attention, guess what? They finally figured it out. You know, marriage is an attention attractor. It must happen. Must happen. I really learned a lot about value by reading an article about a couple who at the age of 38 decided they would retire at 40. They had 2 years, while they still had 2 children, to come up with all the money that it would take for them to retire at 40 and live off of that money for the rest of their lives. And they lived in San Francisco. And he worked for the government. Now, I don't know what she did, but I'm just thinking, government work in San Francisco, 2 children, you're going to save $2 million in 8 years. They did. And there's an article about that. I guess there's actually not an organization, but a process they went through. It's called FIRE, F-I-R-E. Look it up. Not now, I'm talking. See, you'll miss something good if you do it now. It's not what they did. It was that they were so focused on doing it. They did everything they could to eliminate their debt and start to save, and they'd take little side hustles, work Uber and Lyft, and every time they got new money, they would put it in their savings, and then they watched the money and they put it in things that would yield the highest that they could get. They just changed their lifestyle knowing that they would be free at 40, and they're free at 40. They do not have to work from now on. Now, they're not living in the United States and certainly not San Francisco. They moved to Portugal. But still, free at 40. Now, that's interesting. How many of you would just like to be free anytime? It's like, free? You're free? But our values, just where are you putting it? Where are you putting? Are you trusting? Are you being led? Are you being guided? That self will give you solutions. That self will lead you. W's for worry, stop it. Jesus said, see that ye be not troubled. And then he says, you can cast your burden upon me. And that me is the Christ, which is another word for that absolute that resides within, that infinite that lies in silent repose. Because no matter what you're facing, there is a bigger God. Big, like absolute means big God. How many of you oh no, this is horrible. You need a bigger God. So I want it to be like a reflex. You know how you could have reflexes with your knees? This should be the reflex. Big deal. I got a big God. A big deal. I got a big God. I mean, how many of us oh no, it's because I don't know how we're going to ever do that. That's a tiny little God you got. Tiny little God. It's getting to be the reflex for me. I get a diagnosis. I've got a bigger God. Yesterday, I got a prayer request from another minister, and she shared it with about, 3 or 4 of us. And she was talking about a friend who's like, whoa, talk about blow-up time. Wow, how many things could blow up at the same time, all pivoting on certain things? Whoa. I'm like, there was a part of me that went, this is big. I even wrote, my first response on the email was, wow. And then, reflex. God's bigger than this. Reflex. Just knowing God was in the midst of it and knows how to connect the dots and bring harmony into all the things that seem to be falling down. X is for be extremely diligent. It's kind of X. Be extremely diligent. Keep up your practice. Don't just pray when things go wrong. Pray when things go right. There's a essay from the prophet, and in that, The prophet says, don't seek friends for time to kill, seek friends for time to live. Don't seek God for time to kill. Don't seek God to heal you. Don't seek God because you need it right now. Don't seek God because finally you're over your head. Seek God when you don't need it. So that there will be that reflex action, so that there will be this sense of I'm cared for. Be extremely diligent in your spiritual practice. Why is for you? So much is just up to you. There's so many things that we have in this community to serve you, to support you, to nurture you through everything. You don't have to do it alone, but you still have to show up. We have a support group of the most dedicated practitioners who are there for you for physical healing. We have a group that wants to support you through all of the loss and sense of just loss, because it could be abandonment, it could be someone died. I mean, grief that people can go through. There's so much going on to support people through things, but you still have to show up so that we can support you through things. You're still in charge. And you can make this sound like it's a burden and heavy, or you can make this liberating. This is for a liberation. You get to sign up and say, no. You get to sign up and say, I want it to be different. You get to sign up and say, I will now have this in my life. And I have to learn this all the time. Last week I had a horse riding lesson with a really good trainer. I finally got a really good trainer who not only knows horses, but she knows how to teach adults. And she was correcting me all the time. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. I'm all the ways that I was doing it wrong. And finally she just said, Kathianne, are you going to ride the horse or are you going to sit on it? Because my horse kept getting distracted. Oh, there's a cow. Ooh, there's a cow. And then there were other horses in the arena. Ooh, there's another horse. There's another horse. And then there was this big poster that she thought, ooh, scary, scary. Ooh, And so what I was doing was always correcting. We couldn't just go in a circle. I was having to correct her and correct her and correct her and correct her. How many of you live life that way? How many of you live a life of a series of corrections, adjustments, refinements? She really had to call me on my stuff. Are you going to ride that horse or are you going to sit there? I don't know what happened. I mean, I really don't, but it was like one of those Egypt experiences where I don't know what happened. But something within me don't challenge an Aries. Do not challenge an Aries. And something within me went, but instead of something horrible coming out of my chest, like the alien, I just felt strong. I just felt, I don't know, it wasn't even in thought. But I took those reins, and in my head, I said, Sue, I'm riding you. And she went around perfectly, and she stayed on course. And one of the other gentlemen in the arena said, hey, she looks like a show horse, because she picked herself up differently. She carried herself differently. Why? Because I was different. Life gets different when we're different. Life comes together when you say, I'm living this life. I'm not reacting to life. I'm living this life. One of the things that I had to come up to recently was I had to wake up and realize that I needed to take the reins of CSL because I was reacting. Some things have happened. We've lost some people. People didn't make it to Mountaineers. Some people didn't make it from the Mountaineers to here. So we've lost people in general. And there's this thing going around that since we don't have a mortgage, people don't need our money. I've heard that. Not to me. No one says that to me. They say it to others. So they tell me. I love that. Also, there's this idea, since we have money in the bank because we sold our other property, they don't need our money. But that money in the bank is for another property, to either expand this property or to get something totally new. It's not for day-to-day operations. That's like taking your 401k and saying, you know what, we're a little low today, so we'll just take a little bit and we'll take a little bit. Pretty soon you'll have no savings. We're not doing that. That's not good business. So what's been happening is that we've been living Sunday to Sunday, sort of like some of you might live paycheck to paycheck. And so I needed to take the reins and just do whatever I could to wake us up. Just to wake us up. So last week I did a survey. It was really fun. And I asked if you tithe, sort of like Paul did, but I asked in retrospect, if you tithe, or maybe in the future, if you tithed, how much would you be giving this week? It was really good, very interesting. About 50% answered, but that's okay. I know algebra. I know how to figure out percentages. But from those people who did fill out the questionnaire, some said that they wouldn't give anything because they have no income. Looking at what people would give, this congregation, which was just last week, did not include online, and not the people that cycle through, just last week, from first, second, and third services. We found out that some people make around $2,000 a year, according to what they would be tithing, and some person makes $2 million, according to what they would be tithing. Most people were in between. That conservative estimate, based on this very informal survey, a conservative estimate, is that just the people that were here last week, if they tithed, we would be taking in over $3 million a year, which is about twice what we take in now. I know. That's just last week. It boggles my mind what the good we could do if we did that. We could expand our current ministries, and we have a lot of them, but we could expand them beyond this space and take them all over the King County and the other counties. We could be upping our broadcast ability all over the United States, especially in the Midwest, where people are looking for this kind of information. How many of you know people in the Midwest who say, I wish I had a church like that? How many of you have been in the Midwest and said, I wish I had a church like that? How many of you up there saying, I wish I had a church like that? Oh, by the way, we got no pledges last week from people online. Oh, anyway. All 150 of you, hello. We would be able to upgrade our property. We would be and not dip into our savings, and we could have full-time pastoral care. I mean, amazing things could happen. And we would not be living Sunday to Sunday. I think that's exciting. Yes. It's very exciting. Which leads me to the last letter, which is zeal, enthusiasm, excitement. Yippee-ki-yay. When I was in sales, and I was in sales twice, when I could get enthusiastic about selling, I sold. I really sold. In fact, one time I was working for one organization where the men in the organization said, what is she offering? Yeah, I know, it was bad, but I was out selling them. I am an introvert. I do not like meeting new people, and I certainly don't like asking. But the alternative was to sit at a desk, so I got real excited about sales. I don't like to do it now, but man, I get real excited about what we could be doing together. I get enthusiastic, and I love it. So I am going to ask you to zealously consider this card. Some of you have filled one out. Some of you haven't yet. just take the moment to look at it while I continue to talk, because this is an opportunity for us to become involved in the evolution of this center and the evolution of what we have to offer. And I was just looking at Reverend John back there. Another thing that I thought of when I was coming in is, what if the coming of age program was free? And we extended it out way beyond what we currently do. And we haven't been able to offer it for free because it's a very expensive program. But what if that's just what we did for those tween years? It boggles my mind what could be available. So I want to enroll you in what could be available, because we will thrive when you thrive. That's why I do these things, so you thrive, and we will thrive when you contribute to us thriving. So I really encourage you to fill this out, to ask what your intention is. And here, now watch, back to the beginning. Where are you listening from? Are you listening from the outside that says, I can't possibly, and I don't know, and I got to check with my accountant? Oh, make a number. Or are you listening from the center, which is never afraid to consider? I'm not saying the center will do it, but it's never afraid to consider. The Christ can go anywhere and listen to anything. And the Christ comes from that which is connected to everything. So see how you might fill this out. And then what I'd love for you to do is to participate. And online, I'm not sure how Monica's doing it, but she is offering you an opportunity to do something. We talked about multiple ways to do this, but online people, I see you, and I better hear from you. So I would love for you to fill this out, take a moment, go ahead, and while they're doing it, because I know some people have already filled this out, I encourage those that want to come forward, to make a statement. When ancient people used to go to temples, the first thing they did was give a gift. They gave before they asked the blessing. They gave before they expected support, because it is a continuous thing. It is something that circulates. For us to always be receiving and not to be giving doesn't harm God, because the infinite lies in silent repose, but our personality forgets to trust. The outer still worries. So I encourage you to come forward. Let's see what we can do next year together based on fullness and abundance and what the soul calls us to do. Come forward. And we'll do this in the name of the one, the infinite Spirit, that which is beyond all names, and yet in all things. So we just take a deep breath. And I give thanks for all this, for everyone who came forward, who's come forward twice, for everyone who considered it, for everyone who said, this isn't for me. It's all good. God's in the midst of all of it. And to know that is a pleasure and a blessing. And all I can say is hallelujah. And so it is.
Listen, gather round. I found something that you can use. And if you listen well, I'm here to tell you, you cannot lose. A simple song, simple melody, to remind you that you can be the greatest ever, defeated never. Even though sometimes you may lose, oh my, yes you can. You can do anything if you try. Just try. Yes you can. But you have trials. For your trials will just make you strong. You can do anything. Yes, you can. Teach your children well. It's time to tell them just who they are. Train them as they go. Let them know that they can go far. Oh, sisters and brothers, why do we wait? Tomorrow will just be too late. For love gives the provision. Make the decision. Yes, we can do all things through our faith. Oh my, yes you can. You can do anything if you try. Just try. Yes you can. But you have to believe and rely on what you have inside. You can make it through your trials. For your trials will just make you strong. You can do anything. Yes, you can. Oh, oh, oh. Yes, I can. I can do anything if I try. I gotta try. Just try. I'm gonna try. Yes, I can. But I have to believe and rely on what I have inside. I can make it through my trials. For my trials will just make me strong. I can do anything. Yes, I can. Oh, 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 oh. Let's sing together. Your voice counts. I can, I can, I can. Yes, I can do anything. I can, I can, I can. Yes, I can do anything. I can, I can, I can. Yes, I can do anything. I can, I can, I can. Yes, I can do anything. No matter what, you can just conceive it. If you believe it, then you can achieve it. I can, yes, I can do anything. No matter what, if you can just conceive it. If you believe it, then you can achieve it. I can, yes, I can do anything. No matter what, if you can just conceive it. If you believe it, then you can achieve it.